still be around in the morning. It'll taper off, though. We'll see some sunshine and back into the 70s. I'm KIRO 7, Pinpoint meteorologist Nick Allard.
It is cloudy and 66 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Ursula Royteen.
Download our app to listen on your smartphone. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk. Powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome. Welcome to The Big Show. And we have reached the point of absolute insanity. Let's get right to The Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Top story.
Some of my best friends are Democrats. Some of my best friends are liberals. In fact, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of classically liberal. I think people should be free to express themselves. I don't think government should tell them how to speak. I don't think that other people should tell them how to speak. I think that freedom and sovereignty are noble pursuits. So I have no problem with Democrats. I have no problem with liberals. I have a serious problem with leftists. And this region now is being dominated by leftists politically. Leftists are dangerous. And that is not a word that I've chosen randomly. Leftists are putting our lives at risk. Leftists are among the Marxists and the socialists who dominate local government. If you were listening to this show yesterday, I talked to a retired King County Sheriff's detective. We broke a story on our show last week about the King County Sheriff's Office withdrawing from this database system called Lynx. By the way, Ursula, you'll like this. A few days ago, last week when you were gone, I went on a little rant about the Seattle Times because they had a couple of reporters who would go after me on Twitter, and I think I'm pretty good about attribution. I think I'm really good. Mm-hmm. And they just made snide comments. You didn't mention that we did that story first. And I've noticed lately, as we break more and more stories on our show, that the Seattle Times is about 5-6 days behind us on a lot of these stories, and they never give us attribution. So I mentioned that last week. I have to say, congratulations to the Times. They finally got the Lynx story today, 6 days after we broke it. But they did mention KIRO Radio.
I saw that.
I know. So I guess my comments are whipping them into shape there. But anyway, it's a very serious story because I have been hearing from deputies, from detectives who have told me that withdrawing from this database, and what the database does is it gives us interconnected communications between police agencies all around the region. So if they're chasing after, and the one that one detective told me about, they were looking for a suspect. Through the Lynx system, they found out that in another jurisdiction, and I believe he said it was Pierce County, they found out that in a previous criminal encounter, this perp had pulled a gun on the cops from Pierce County. They will not get information like that now in the King County Sheriff's Office. They will go in not knowing if somebody is capable of deadly violence against a cop in another jurisdiction. And I talked to John Holland, a retired King County Sheriff's detective, yesterday. What was your reaction when you heard that they were pulling out of this system?
Well, as a former detective, I think fundamentally it's something that we should not be doing. It does affect public safety. It does affect the ability for detectives and officers on the street to do their job quickly and efficiently. It does affect the ability to gather intelligence and information, and it has a wide-ranging negative impact. And I'm hoping that the powers that be will change their mind and not make it politically motivated and get that information back to the people that truly need it on a daily basis.
Okay. So he says it makes the public less safe. It makes the sheriff's personnel less safe. And I wanted to make sure that this is not being exaggerated here.
You're telling me that this unquestionably makes what is a very dangerous job, being a cop, this unquestionably makes the job more dangerous for the men and women who serve?
There's no question that the intelligence and incident reports and data that a police officer or detective can extract from that database is as invaluable. You can't put a value on it.
Okay, so why are they getting rid of something that makes the public more safe and the cops more safe? Because Dow Constantine, Mitzi Johanknick, Scott Summers, the undersheriff, they have decided that illegals are more important than the lives of citizens and sheriffs, deputies, and detectives. That ICE, if they access this database, even though there's no immigration information, nothing about status that was entered into this database, it is an illusory added measure of safety for illegals in their view. But it adds no added safety or extra safety. But they care more about illegals not being found by ICE than they care about the lives of the men and women who serve in a very dangerous job. It's already dangerous. Now they are making it more dangerous.
I can only conclude, John, that Dow Constantine and Mitzi Johanknick care more about illegals and some illusory level of security withdrawing from this database gives them, that they care more about illegals than they care about the public and their own staff. If that's true, that's a pretty damning indictment of political and law enforcement leadership.
Well, I'm going to remove ICE out of the equation of what they might think, and I will give all the powers that be in the King County Sheriff's Office administration credit or the benefit of the doubt that perhaps they don't know the importance of that database.
Okay, so this guy wasn't coming on to slam, or defend ICE and slam the sheriffs. He said, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But then I read to him what the undersheriff said when he told the personnel that they're withdrawing from the system.
Let me read to you one other line from the undersheriff Scott Summers' email. We acknowledge and understand the impact to many of you who use this resource as part of your work on a daily basis. So he said in the email, we know this is important to you. We know that it's going to impact you, your ability to do your job, and we are still pulling out of it.
I find that very unfortunate and sad to hear. One of the factors that you did identify is the whole officer safety issue and dealing with violent criminals. It's just not about doing your job on a day-to-day, the mundane things.
Sure.
I'm referring more about the, high impact, violent crime type incidents. On the day-to-day stuff, auto theft, yeah, I get that. Okay, but we're not really talking about that. We're talking about, major violent crimes, serious felonies that have an immediate impact on the community. That's what everybody should be concerned with.
Okay. So, my view, Mitzi, and I'm not somebody who comes on the radio every other day saying so-and-so should resign. Mitzi Johanknick, Dow Constantine should be gone today. They have decided to put illegals above the lives of citizens, above the lives of King County Sheriff's Office detectives and deputies. They have decided to prioritize illegals. And let me read to you, our show has exclusively obtained a letter that Mitzi Johanknick sent to all the members of the King County Council. And she says, on a daily basis, King County Sheriff's Office members rely on links to search other agency records such as arrest and case reports for investigatory purposes. So she acknowledges this is a daily tool for her personnel. Then she says that they're getting out because of ICE. And then she says, unfortunately, this will negatively impact my agency's ability to access necessary information related to new and ongoing investigations and to support other important functions. So the sheriff is acknowledging that she is willing to put the safety of the public at risk. She's acknowledging that she's willing to put the safety of her personnel at risk, lives on the line. There's a life and death job. Because of leftist politics, because of social justice warriors who have decided that federal law enforcement is the agency, or the enemy, I should say. And by going after the federal law enforcement, if we've got to sacrifice the lives of a few citizens, if we've got to sacrifice some of our King County Sheriff's Office deputies, so be it. We got a social justice cause here, and that's to go after ICE. This is as reckless as any story we have covered in my 24 years. Prioritizing illegals over citizens and cops, which is exactly what they're doing. Dow Constantine is behind this. Mitzi Johanknik is on board. Scott Summers, the undersheriff, carried it out. Liz Roca is Liz Roca. That's all I got to say about her. But we're all at risk now because of illegals and because of this decision by the sheriff's office. This is what leftism brings us, where common sense is gone. It is completely gone. And Dow Constantine, Mitzi Johanknik should resign today. But they won't, because they're all consorting with each other. They all feel like they have some noble purpose to pursue here. And this brings me to the next bit of insanity.
The big lead. I sense a Dory rant coming on.
Yeah, I just finished one, too. Okay, so I'm watching all the newscasts last night, and I like all of our local TV stations. And our radio station's doing the same thing they did. But the story was, I'm reading the headlines about the Capital One hacker. This guy who stole the identity of 100 million people in the Capital One hack, accessed hundreds of thousands of Social Security numbers, and is now sitting in jail waiting for trial. Well, he is now seeking release from jail. Why? Because he says he's a woman. And his lawyer says it is unfair to have a woman in a men's jail with a bunch of men. And so I've started looking at all of these headlines. Q13, Seattle woman accused of huge Capital One breach seeks release from jail. King 5, Seattle woman, same thing, suspected in huge Capital One breach. And our radio station, KIRO Radio, refers to this guy as a woman. And I don't understand this, and here's why. He said that he wants to go to a European country that has assisted suicide. So I think everybody says, this guy's kind of crazy. He was tweeting at President Trump, asking Trump to deport him. This guy's pretty crazy. He's breaching the security, allegedly, of 100 million people via the Capital One database. Oh, this guy's a criminal, too, allegedly. He says he's a woman. Oh, we got to take him at his word on that. I don't understand that. I don't understand a man who's sitting in a men's jail and that every news operation has decided we got to call him a woman. And we got to take him at his word on that when everything else in his life, public life, is about, kind of crazy, lunatic fringe stuff and alleged criminality. Why? Because we're told that we got to say whatever he says to say, and we're supposed to abide by it? And I don't know. Do you want to weigh in on this, Ursula? Because I get really frustrated with this one.
First of all, on KIRO Radio, because I did the story yesterday, we identified her name is Paige Thompson, and she's trans, and she identifies as a woman. That didn't just happen after she went into jail. She identified as a woman before. Mm-hmm. And I know that there are certain people on the station who are
he's in a men's jail.
Correct, because the FBI goes with the gender you're born with, not So I mean that has not evolved to where we are today. But I know that there are people who are also asking, well, why wasn't it brought up? Why wasn't that in the lead? Why wasn't it more important in the story. The story is this person stole the identities of, or got the personal information from more than 100 million people from a place where she was working. And now the story, the reason it is important and the reason it needs to be brought up, in the lead in the story is because the story now is about her and her attorneys saying that because she identifies as a woman and has been living as a woman, that she feels that she is jailed because there are many people who don't accept that, and that would be even more dangerous place for her. I mean, she should go into a prison where there's women.
You and I are going to use different pronouns on this. I get that. He has also said that he's not guilty.
That's standard.
Are we
mass killers say they're not guilty?
Reporting that that an innocent person is accused in the Capital One's breach? Because that's his opinion, is that he's not guilty.
But we're not treating it any differently from any other story. People are allowed their day in court.
So we're not reporting that he's innocent, even though he claims that he is. We're going to let the evidence decide whether he's guilty or innocent.
If he in court says I'm not guilty, yes, we're going to say that he says he's not guilty, but the evidence shows this.
Are we going to declare him innocent?
No, that's not our job. Our job is not to declare him innocent.
So we're going to wait.
Her innocent.
We're going to wait for the evidence.
Absolutely, that's which we do in every story.
Okay, so to me. The evidence for...
I don't even know why we are going there.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because to me, the evidence as to his gender is his genitalia. And the fact that he's sitting in a men's prison.
I know,
to me, that's overwhelming evidence that this is a man. So why...
But as you know, we have evolved in that we understand that there are people just because
I haven't evolved. I'm still back in the caveman days, apparently.
Well, I think you are not accepting of what... has changed. Just like for the longest time, people would not accept gay marriage. There's still people who don't accept gay marriage.
I accept it from people who are not criminals in the news. But if everything in their life is a lie, but this is the one thing we are to accept as truth. And again,
but it happened. I think she was working as a trans person for Capital One.
Right.
Yeah, so that wasn't something that she just made up because now she's been arrested.
Okay, but we are going to let the evidence decide innocence and guilt, even though he has said I'm innocent. But
you're not.
But his opinion,
two totally different things. You're trying to make it black and white, and it's just not.
His opinion is more important than evidence of genitalia and what prison he's sitting in.
And again, I know you don't believe it, but I think that there is enough. I want to say evolution, but that we've learned a lot more about how people identify with themselves, and you don't accept it. I mean,
I do in many cases, but in this case, where it's somebody who every part of their life is crazy and criminality allegedly,
but
I have a lot of trouble saying I'm going to let this person dictate. I'll let more evidentiary things dictate how I refer to him than his opinion, because nothing else he says seems to be sane or legal.
In this case, they can say, well, Paige Thompson, if she is in a jail with other men and because she's trans, that she could be in even more danger and then could get killed there, then they could move her to a different prison. I don't think they have a case to say she needs to just be let free. Hey.
No one's going to kill him. He can take care of himself. Okay. Aren't you glad?
Thanks for bringing me into this one.
I invited you into the conversation. Okay, that is your big lead.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Oh, man. I love you, Ursula.
And I love you.
Okay, look at that. See, I can get along with everybody. Almost. Okay, coming up next. Oh, man, the president, he had a lot to say before he left for Kentucky a couple of hours ago. It's making a lot of headlines, and you're going to hear a lot of it coming up next.
This